It was just horrible screams throughout the whole airplane. The door swings open on Gary's right-hand side, so Gary had access to get out first. When I missed my seatbelt, it was just total horror, terror, as the flames was burning skin.
I opened the door and rolled out of the airplane and tried to think about the stop, drop, and roll did when you're on fire and stuff. And I did that, but when I did it, I realized I was on rocks and not sand or like that, so there was air pockets underneath when I rolled. And I knew it wasn't gonna put out the fire. So I immediately jumped up and I ran over and jumped into the river itself to put myself out.
I just leaned to the left-hand side of the airplane, counting my blessings. And as fire was burning other portions of my body, you just couldn't stand the pain anymore, so I started thrashing around. And before you know it, I was outside the airplane. I don't know how I got out the airplane.
I seen him standing there, back towards the airplane, just standing there, kind of hunched over, still on fire, but not doing anything. So I ran over to him and grabbed him and threw him in a puddle that was right next to the airplane. I threw him in a puddle and I put him out.
I remember laying in the river and reality started kicking in. And I saw Gary and I looked at him. And to bring myself totally back to reality, I said, "Gary, you're one ugly blank, blank, blank." And he looked at me and we just both started chuckling. And then we both realized that we need to start doing something now. What I remember is the smell of burnt skin peeling off as I was taking it. I was in hypothermia because with Gary throwing me into the river, I was quite cold. All my heat was escaping out of from holes or burnt skin.
My hands had been blistered from the fires like that, and all the skin peeled off the inside of my hands. And I thought to myself, I'm not gonna be able to do this, let alone, I can't even hang onto an axe, let alone chop through this wood. And I looked back to Scott to see him, and he was shaking so violently, I'll never forget it. He was shaking so violently, I thought he was like a rubber band man. I mean, I don't know how he was even standing up. And right then I thought, I just gotta do this.
Every swing of that axe when Gary was chopping in, trying to get ourselves back into the cabin, the pain that he'd just yell out as he swung the axe and it hit the plywood.
I don't know how long it actually took me to do it, but I just started whacking away at the plywood until I finally broke through it and got it out of the way. And then got Scott through the window and got him into the cabin. Scott was pretty weak. I was concerned about his health. He noticed that his hands were was bleeding, and the blood was kind of seeping out of his skin and stuff like that. So what I did was I wrapped his hands in some dish towels that we had there, because we didn't have any first aid kits or anything like that, and all we had was these dish towels. So I wrapped his hands in these dish towels, and I started treating him for shock. I put him in a sleeping bag, and I propped his feet up and stuff like that. And then I also gave him about a half a glass of water because I knew his throat was also burned, probably like mine was. After about 5 hours, Scott started to vomit. And I thought, okay, he's in really bad shape now. This is not good.
I kept drinking water, then vomiting, drinking more water, more vomiting. That's when Gary decided we need to go get help because we're not going to last too much longer.
I didn't get any sleep at all through the night. I kept the fire going and keep an eye on Scott. In the morning, when the morning came around, all the wood had burned out. So I knew that that day was that day that they had to be, that was going to be there, because we weren't going to make it any further than that. I knew that at 4 o'clock, when my flight plan was due to expire, if I didn't check in, they were going to launch a rescue for me. So I knew I had to, and I kept telling Scott, that's when they're going to start, things are going to start happening. That's when we're going to know whether they are going to rescue us or not. And so I had that goal in my mind, that I was going to last at least until 4 o'clock to see what's going to happen.
We finally heard the blades of the helicopter. It was the most sweetest sound I've ever heard in my life. And I knew they finally found us. To how long I was going to last, I still didn't know. I was still continuing vomiting, but the hope that I knew that they were almost there kept me going. It was like two angels when they came in and they said, yeah, we got him, we got him. Let's get him down to the helo. We ain't got much time.
When I got to the hospital and was unloaded from the ambulance and wheeled into the emergency room, my wife was there. I knew she was going to be upset about the condition I was in, and the fact that she didn't like me flying that well anyways. So to try to relieve her tension, the first thing I asked her was, now that I don't have an airplane anymore, could I get a boat? And she thought that was actually kind of funny. Through the healing process, it was nice to have somebody to go through it with me. And I think Scott had the same feeling, because it is such a torturous thing to go through that I wouldn't want anybody to go through it, especially alone.